Exam Class Podcast.
Oh, shit.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Josh.
And on this program, we're going to be discussing some beautiful, beautiful Star Trek with you beautiful, beautiful people.
Oh, we were supposed to watch Star Trek? Uh-oh, I watched Earth 2.
Oh my god, there was a lengthy pause in that joke, Josh.
I had to think of a show.
What's on TV? What's on TV?
What was on TV in 1995?
This will be part 2 of the court collection, or the trials collection. Fuck.
Trials.
I fucked it.
Oh, man, I was thinking today... Look, hear me out.
Okay, I'm ready.
There are a lot of Satan episodes.
Jesus Christ.
I've been watching TOS like nonstop over the past
you get
couple
fucking
days.
hooked on TOS, man. It's hard not to continue watching it.
I just like leave it on and I just like do whatever. And there's a couple that could pass for a Satan's.
That's actually true. There are a couple that could pass for Satan's.
What's another one I was thinking of? Oh, I think we should definitely do like a sexy collection where we talk about like sexy episodes.
Oh, like the Naked Now and the Naked Time and shit?
Yeah, no, we could do that. Or just ones where like they're like having to do with like sex.
Well, I watched Space Seed yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is about how a historian really wants to fuck Genghis Khan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who doesn't? I mean, everyone fucked that guy. Everyone's related to that guy.
Everybody wanted to. Like, she's fucking, like, she loves a Napoleon and Alexander. Like, they dance really heavily around who Khan is supposed to remind you of in that episode. I guess it was too, like, close to home, maybe. It was only, like, 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's no mention of Hitler in that episode, even though Khan is like eugenics Hitler.
Yeah, he says Hitler-y things.
Yes. And the red-headed Starfleet officer wants to bone him so bad that she derelicts her entire duty and goes to a desert planet to live with him.
She does that because he touches her hair one time and she's hooked.
Yeah, well, he's like, every lady loves a Hitler, right? That episode is fucking weird.
That's that old saying, girls love a Hitler. A Hitler boy.
I heard Hitler boys. Fucking Cosmo, so it has to be true.
How attracted to a Hitler are you?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want a mustache ride? So, this is part 2 of our Trials collection. It's The Measure of a Man from The Next Generation.
It's a TNG, one of the best TNG episodes.
It really is. It's one of the best Star Trek episodes, period.
I got, like, a lot to say about this.
I do, too. And, the first thing I want to say is that I'm the smartest man that ever lived.
I mean, yeah.
I want to put that out there for everybody because this episode is literally perfect to follow Court Martial with.
It's very similar.
Yeah, to the point where there's actually the exact same thing happens in both episodes.
In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, I'm like, oh, this is just a reference. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, this is a reference to Court Martial.
Yeah, at the beginning of the court case, they read out Data's accomplishments, and Riker says that he wants them to move on, and Picard's like, no, I want this read out.
He does the same thing, and then he does exactly what the lawyer does later with the guy who I hate, the science guy. I don't remember his name. Max something, Commander Maddox.
Maddox, yeah.
And then he does the same thing where he's like, yes. He's an expert.
Yeah, he's an expert. I get it. But anyway,
same thing.
Do you want to say anything before we hop into the frame by frame of this episode?
We're doing frame by frame? This is going to take forever.
Well, that's my new name for how we go scene by scene through the episode. It's called the frame by frame with Jeff
Pennington's frame by frame.
Look, I'm trying to get in on that Boston Sean action from emails, all right? I need my name in front of something.
Yeah, everything's a thing. It's like a show. It's like we do a show.
It's almost like we do a program.
I just want to say I love Data.
I do too.
That's it. That's all.
I named my cat Data after him. So.
I named my cat after Data's cat.
Spot. So, I have one question before we go in.
Uh-oh.
And it's a loaded question. And it's pointed right at your fucking head.
Jeff Pennington's loaded questions.
I live in the South. I have a slight Southern accent. I don't want anything to do with gun-related anything. I don't need anything else to make me sound any more Southern.
Brought to you by guns.
Brought to you by Smith & Wesson. Seriously, send us money. No.
Remington.
I would not take it. Rembrandt toothpaste.
Rembrandt. Anyway.
As a side note real quick, if you hear fireworks in the background, it is not July 4th when we're recording this.
It's a couple days after July 4th, but people still shoot off fireworks in my town, too. Or guns. It could be guns.
Who knows? Especially here, where I live. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
It'd be a great time to murder someone. Just saying.
It's like in The American. Did you ever watch that movie?
No.
It's a great movie. You should watch it. George Clooney. And he's a gunsmith, and he makes, he's an assassin. And he goes to this small Italian town to make this gun and to, assassinate some dude, or what he thinks is some dude. And, when he makes the gun, he waits till the clock strikes 12 so he can hammer the pieces he needs every time the clock strikes so nobody hears him.
Oh.
It's a really good movie.
So on Star Trek... No, my question is this.
What was your question?
My question is this. Who is your favorite robot in all of fiction? Is it Data?
I mean, yeah. Data beats out, R2-D2, for sure.
Well, for sure. I'm always on the fence.
Uh-huh.
Because I love Data. I named my cat Data after Data.
And you also love the robot from Metropolis.
Yeah. Especially when she dances topless.
When she has those metal tits.
Metal titties. No, I love Mega Man.
Oh, Mega Man's a robot.
I fucking love Mega Man.
Yeah.
But it's probably Data.
Probably Data. Yeah, who's my second favorite robot?
The robot from Lost in Space?
No, I hate that robot. That robot sucks. Not the new one. The new one's alright, but the old one's stupid.
The new one's alright.
People want to fuck the new one. Did you know that?
Why? It's a dude in a suit. I get it, right?
That's why, because it's a dude in a suit.
The funniest thing is, I'm so used to robots in American television being obviously, robotic.
Yeah.
They're not just a dude in a suit, but, he looks like a Power Rangers villain.
He does. He looks super Sentai.
Yeah, he looks like a Super Sentai monster. It's just a guy in a suit.
Maybe one of the Battlestar Cylons. I don't want to tell you because
don't spoil for me.
Well, you gotta get on.
I'm not gonna watch it, so it doesn't matter. But
oh my!
I'm just kidding. I'm definitely gonna watch it, everybody.
Oh my! Yeah.
I will. I'll watch it.
It's Data. He's lying. He's lying. That means he's lying.
No. Edit it out. Edit it out, future Josh. Don't let past Josh know.
Never.
Speaking of Mega Man, real quick before we get into the episode, read Mega Man Mega Mix. That shit'll make you fucking love that guy.
Oh, Mega Man's great. I love Mega Man.
It'll make you love him. I'm not an emotional reader type of guy. I don't get choked up over comic books very much. Novels and stuff maybe.
Yeah.
But it's a comic, and I don't normally get choked up over shit, but there's some stories in that shit that'll really tear at your heartstrings.
Well, I'll have to check it out.
And it's Mega Man. It also has the best version of an evil doppelganger story I've ever read in my life. It's from the doppelganger's point of view, who thinks he's the real Mega Man.
Oh, that's cool.
And when he finds out he's not, he has a horrific emotional breakdown.
Oh, that's every day of my life.
Well, yeah. You found out you're not really who you thought you were.
That's every day.
But on Star Trek... Let's sweep that emotional trauma under the rug real quick. On Star Trek, our favorite heroes of the Enterprise D are headed to a starbase for a little while. I think, like, crew rotation.
Yeah, they're just doing Starfleet shit.
But the episode starts with, like, a game of poker, and it's like a Data life lesson scene, which I love.
Yeah, I think it's the first time Data plays poker, or on the show at least, right?
Yeah, because he talks about how, like, he studied very heavily.
Yeah.
And he learns that the game of cards isn't won through knowledge of the game, it's won through human instinct and insight. Right.
He says that this game is simple. He's like, it's easy. Like, there's only a certain amount of winning combinations, and I can know what, like, half the deck is, right? So he's like, so I'll be able to tell who's going to win, probability-wise.
But Riker bluffs him.
Yeah, he does.
And Data has this great line where he says, well, that's completely illogical that you would play when you had no chance of winning.
Yeah,
and
he said, but I did win.
Riker's like, I did win, though.
Yeah, it's like the forest through the tree. It's like, that's the game. He doesn't realize that that's the game.
We also see that Picard meets a lady who really wants to fuck him.
Yeah, Picard put his wiener inside of this lady.
Well, no.
No, he did. He put his...
Like, she wants him to, but she...
No, they had a prior relationship.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought the only thing that they had was that, like, they were going to have a relationship, but then, like, she was in charge of the court-martial that Picard had to go up against.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what ended it. Like, that's... Like, I think they were, like, kind of on again, off again. And then that happened. You
are writing Star Trek fan fiction, sir.
I'm pretty sure it's implied that they were together.
Maybe. Her name is Lavoie, Philippa Lavoie.
Oh, they like that name, Philippa.
Yeah, there's a couple instances of that in this episode, I think. But they have like a little back and forth about the court martial that Picard had aboard the USS Stargazer, which is something that kind of comes up every now and then.
Yeah, it's sort of like a little background into Picard and what he's like.
The ship, the Stargazer, was destroyed, and he had the choice of saving the crew or the ship, and he chose the crew.
Yeah,
and that's Picard in a nutshell.
Yep.
Which is why we're on the Enterprise J now.
Which is why we're on the Enterprise J.
But an admiral shows up. Admiral Nakamura. Admiral Nakamura shows up.
And he's wearing the craziest admiral outfit I've ever seen.
Yeah, they like change the admiral outfit like every 10 episodes. Like, they can't decide on that shit.
They didn't know what to do. This one is a particularly ridiculous look.
Well, by the time you get to DS9, the admiral outfit is just the regular uniform, but with a belt.
They just get a belt, a big, like a rodeo belt, like they won the rodeo. They get like a belt buckle.
It's like a belt that goes over your shirt too. It doesn't go anywhere near your waist.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's just like that's an admiral. There it is.
It's an admiral because he's got a belt. Hopefully, he doesn't stand behind a podium, so we don't know what rank he is.
So we can't tell what rank he is. But even like he's a vice admiral because he's got three bars, 3 pips and bars, right? So, but they're like vertical. They were like, let's turn them vertical.
It's like weirdly turned. They're like not quite vertical, actually. They're like diagonal across his collar.
It's so weird.
But he's accompanied by a rare person in a blue uniform in TNG. Commander Maddox.
This guy sucks a major dick.
He does suck a bunch of pee-pees. I don't like him at all.
He is #1 pee-pee sucker.
Yes. In the whole Federation, he is the #1 pee-pee sucker.
He's up there, man. He's got to be up there. This guy's a prick.
He really is. And they do like a little tour, and by little tour, I mean very little tour. They literally walk around the bridge.
Well, that's all that Bruce Maddox needs.
And Nakamura is like, all right, he's there to work on your android. Peace out. and Captain Picard's like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah. What? Yeah, what are you talking about?
But we learn that Maddox is not only a great giant pee-pee sucker in general, but also specifically to Data, because he's the only one who didn't want Data to join Starfleet.
Yeah, he keeps calling Data it, like he doesn't say he.
Yeah,
right?
I think this entire episode was like, look, people do not like this fucking new doctor coming in and shitting on Data. We need to bring in somebody worse than him. Worse than her.
This is Pulaski.
Yeah,
right?
They're like, we need to bring in somebody who's like shittier to Data than Pulaski to show that there's a difference.
But Pulaski like acts it right, where she like the actor who plays her is like, you can tell that she's Bones, right? Like she's just fucking Bones.
She was actually in TOS in an episode as well.
She played Mrs. the Bones.
She was a different character in that. She was a looker, I'll tell you what, in that episode.
My wife took everything but my bones.
That's why they call me Bones. It's not because I'm a Sawbones. They call me that. Just just happened that way.
You'd have to look up on Wikipedia what Sawbones meant. That might take you 20 minutes, and I don't know. So we're just gonna add this line in the movie.
It took everything but my bones.
She took everything but my bones.
He is the only part of those movies that's any redeeming qualities, though.
He's amazing as him. I wish they wouldn't give him stupid shit to say.
Yes.
And I wish they would give him like actual things to do instead of like, all right, you're gonna disarm a bomb, but get it? It's like surgery.
I put blood in a tribble. I took tribble blood and it fixed you.
I'm the Deus Ex Machina guy. Here
Pretty
it is.
much. But Maddox is like, look, I'm gonna have to dismantle Data.
Yeah, he thinks he can. Maddox believes he is on the verge of creating a positronic brain,
but
right?
He's not.
No,
he's actually an idiot and doesn't know jack shit. And Data says as much.
He's a piece of shit idiot. That's what he is.
They have like a meeting, like Riker, Picard, and Data have a meeting with him, and he's like, "Look, I'm trying to follow in Dr. Noonien Sung's footsteps.
Yeah.
I can do everything he can do better."
Right.
And
not to mention that Noonien Sung was like a hyper genius.
Yeah.
Like.
And fucking, he's like, look, I've made a new positronic brain, so it's fucking easy peasy, I'm gonna do it. And Data's like, well, wait a second. Did you fix this problem and that problem and this problem? And he's like,
the electron degradation across the circuits, and he's like, not yet. And he's like, well then, what are you fucking talking about?
How in the fuck are you gonna do anything then? You're gonna lose all of my fucking data.
Yeah, my brain's gonna go away. He wants to put the brain in like a computer on the starbase. It's like IG-88 in the Death Star, man.
Star Wars. But like, Maddox is a fucking moron. He's like, look, I can do it. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, he's a prick.
And he's like, the risks to Data are negligible. Like, if he explodes, he's just a thing. Who cares?
Yeah, they keep like saying like he's like a tool, right? Like he's like a hammer.
And Data's like, well, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, so I'm out. I'm not taking part in any of this shit. And Picard's like, yeah, dipshit. And
I think he actually says that line.
And then, like, he pulls out, like, a little thing that's like, well, actually, here's the reason why we're having this episode. And Picard's like, fuck! Because Maddox is now, has like, orders from Starfleet Command that Data is now in his custody.
Yeah, there's, like, a transfer order or whatever. Which is, like, kind of like a stupid logic. Like, you need a transfer order for
a person,
but he's not a person. It's like kind of like a double standard, which like obviously it's
that's Maddox's whole thing is the double standard of like Data is as close to human as you can get, but it's still like a fucking thing to him, right?
Yeah, I feel like this is like the first instance in my recollection of science fiction in I guess this is like 89 or whatever. This might be 90. But it's like a really early instance of like what we would later be talking about like 10 years from now after this episode with like the Matrix. And like,
it's 89 by the way.
Okay, so it's so it is 10 years from now. So like that like machines are machines people, and like now we're really like getting into that in real life where it's like, well, what happens if we make a machine that has like intelligence? Like, what do we do?
Yeah,
and you see that in games like that Detroit game.
Detroit Become Human, except like really, really heavy-handed, and
it's very dark.
Like, really, there are two sides to that game. The people who played it, like, some people are like, yeah, it is literally the dumbest, most tone-deaf, like, attempt at trying to show there's, like, racism in the world.
Right.
And other people are like, I want the androids to fuck each other. I love it.
Well, that's probably, like, what's gonna happen, right? Like, as fucking fucked up as that is, like, the reason that there will be, like, that uncanny valley will be crossed is because, like, we're gonna want to have sex with it.
Yeah, it can't look weird. I want to put my penis in it.
Even though people fuck, like, plastic vaginas. Is this the second week in a row we were talking about plastic vaginas?
No. You must be talking about on a different podcast.
Maybe I've just been, never mind.
Never mind. Maybe I need to delete my browser history. So, the next scene is, like, there's so many great scenes in this episode.
Yes.
And this is one of them. I don't know if I'd call it the best one, but it is super fucking good. Like, Picard in his ready room, like, calls in Data, and he's like, Data, I think that you should take part in Maddox's procedure, because, you know, the Starfleet has ordered it.
Yeah.
And Data's like, well, why do I have to do that, you know, like, and he's like, you know, because of how incredible you are at doing your job, that's why we want more Datas, to be able to do more for Starfleet. And Data, like, puts him right the fuck in his place, because he's like, well, like, Geordi's eyes are better than everyone else's eyes, right? So why aren't all Starfleet officers forced to have their eyes replaced with cybernetic implants? And Picard is, like, completely fucking silent. He has no response to that.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything to say. And he does this, like, great, like, when Data leaves, like, he does this great, like, sigh, and he's like, here we go. Yeah. Like, he knows what he has to do, like, immediately, right? And, like, you don't see that with even, like, with Kirk. Like, Kirk's usually, like, pretty on it, and he's usually right about stuff, you know, but, like...
I was talking about this earlier, like, Picard can go up against a situation that he's on the opposite side of and realize that he's wrong and switch over to the other side all within the first few minutes of an episode.
And you can believe it 100% that that's exactly what that character would do.
Like, Picard actually learns a lot in this episode, actually.
Yeah.
And you learn that, like, his position on, when it comes to Data's sentience and, like, his being as just as important as a human wasn't exactly where even he thought it was before this episode.
There's a lot of that. And, like, I want to talk about it later. The speeches that both Picard and Judge Philippa give at the end are, like, incredible.
Oh, they really fucking are.
They're incredible. Like,
but, like, Picard jumps to his feet instantly and starts looking through Starfleet regulations.
Yeah.
And
he's like, computer, give me all the information on Starfleet transfers.
And he's so, like, you can tell that his entire idea of himself has changed in that moment. He realized where he was on that issue, and he was wrong.
I would say that out of all the episodes in this show, this is when Star Trek is Star Trek. This is when the series becomes Star Trek. Like,
I could probably agree with that. This is, like, the first episode I can remember, anyway, where the ideas of rights, inalienable rights, start extending outwards past humans.
Yes. Like, think about from, like, a historical point of view, like, what this means to the Federation. Like, this is a crazy huge deal. Like, this is major shit.
Oh yeah.
Like, what happens if Data is a machine and they can take him apart? And what happens to it's the slippery slope, right? Like, what happens to the Prime Directive? What happens to the holographics? Like what happens to them?
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into that shit yet.
And that's not even a thing really yet. But, like, later on, it will be like relatively soon.
And I mean, that actually gets brought up in Voyager, like Data's sentience and humanhood when the Doctor starts gaining sentience.
Yes. How they can't just turn him off and, like, fix him, you know?
And, like, we learn, like, Picard in this episode is the learning man. He's not, like, the advocate who has all the answers.
Right.
He learns along with the audience throughout the entire episode, and the first step of that isn't that he just goes to his computer and gets the information he needs and then he's ready.
And he wins, yeah.
Like, he doesn't get the information he needs and he has to go to someone who understands it better, he goes to Captain Philippa.
Yeah.
Who is like the JAG officer on board.
She's a JAG officer.
How long were you waiting on that one, Josh?
About a week.
She's the only person in the JAG office.
Yeah, which is kind of convenient, right? Like,
yeah,
that's
they
a
don't
little
have
bit
to hire other actors.
Yeah, they can just be they don't have to farm it out. They can all be each other's defendants and shit.
Yeah, and Picard's like, look, I need your help to stop this transfer from happening, and she's like, well, it has to happen. Either he transfers or he resigns. That's it.
He resigns. Yeah.
And
yeah,
you like feel the frustration at this point in the episode.
Well, you're pissed off at this point. Like every time I watch this episode, I get really mad. And not because, like, it's bad. I get mad because, like, it's so effective at showing me injustice. Like,
yeah.
I'm seeing an injustice taking place before my eyes, and I'm infuriated by it.
It reminds me, like, the tension I feel during this, like, the scene, like, the resignation and tension all at once reminds me of the movie High Noon.
Yes. Oh my god. Like I haven't seen that in a long time.
The building tension in that movie is like fucking so palpable that like I don't even know if you had a heart condition you'd just fucking die at a certain point.
Stop
watching that movie. But like a movie that's capable of, or film or TV show or anything that's capable of making you as an audience member feel something that intensely is like fascinating to me. And this episode does.
It's masterful. It's masterfully done. And like they do all of this just through conversation. Like, nobody's yelling or shouting. Like, nobody's, like, throwing punches. There's no gunfights. There's none of this shit. They're just talking to each other. And I'm immediately, like, on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
Waiting for the next, like, shoe to drop in this, like, shit show that I'm watching. Like, this fucking, like, kangaroo court. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
dude, the craziest thing to me is, like, go back to the beginning of this episode and time out how long it takes for them to deal the cards at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, there's a good 20 seconds of silence at the beginning of this episode where they're dealing cards. And all I could think of is, like, this would never be in a television show in this day and age. There would have to be explosions or people screaming or someone fighting someone or, like, dramatic music happening.
Yeah, it's crazy, like, how shitty TV is. It sucks so bad now. It sucks.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of good TV and stuff, but it's all, like...
Yeah.
None of it has that quietness, that, like, intensity like Star Trek does.
Yeah, even, like, Game of Thrones, like, maybe the first couple seasons, there's episodes where it's, like, similar, like, kind of, like, quiet acting is taking place with tension, But Game of Thrones even, like, now has become, like, they're movies now. They're mini movies, like...
Yeah,
and now,
pretty much.
And now there's dragons in every episode, and everyone's fighting.
Everybody loves dragons.
And that's fine, but, like, man, this is maybe one of the best episodes of television ever written.
Oh, yeah. I would put this in a top 10 list of television episodes of all time, for sure.
And there's a couple TNG episodes that are also in that top 10 for me.
Oh, yeah, I'd put the Inner Light in that top 10.
Inner Light and Darmok are definitely
Darmok, for sure, yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Darmok is a master class in understanding people who are different than you.
It's ridiculous how good it is.
But, like, this episode specifically, like, this next scene continues your, like, physical reaction to the show. Like, your emotions, like, heighten even more with the next scene because Data's in his room and he's packing all of his stuff up. So that lets you know that he's chosen to resign. They don't have to tell you that.
Right. He's not going to go to Maddox, so.
And Maddox just walks the fuck in.
He walks in. He doesn't ring the doorbell.
And Data's like, well, isn't it customary to, like, ring the doorbell before you come into somebody's room? And he's like, well, you're not a person.
It's fucking, oh my god. And at this point, you're like, what are you even doing there?
Yeah, he's like, I'm here to talk you into doing the experiment. And you as an audience member, you're like, well, you wouldn't talk a fucking toaster into it, dude. This is a person.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But Maddox is a moron, so... he goes into his whole spiel about how, like, I'm ready, I know what I'm doing and everything, and Data's like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, and he articulates the idea of memory as its difference to just, like, data.
Right.
Perfectly. That the experience, the flavor, and the feeling, though he doesn't use feeling, that's attached to memory is, like, gonna be lost.
Yeah. You can't recreate it. You can't transfer that stuff. It's like, they mention it later, but they're talking about a soul. They're talking about, like, what the human soul, whatever that may be or may not be, means.
It's the essence of being human being.
Yes.
And Maddox does not think Data has that. But Data, like, circles back to the poker game that happened earlier and articulates the difference between the facts of his memory, like the rules of the game, and the inexplicable feelings of his memory as compared to the bluffing that actually wins the game.
Yeah, it's a perfect metaphor for, like, life finds a way, right? Like, you can't like, you might, like, read the manual and, like, follow the recipe and do everything right, but, like, there's gonna be just something might change and just it's totally different, or the whole experiment is ruined, or Data dies, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you might think you have all the variables, but you don't.
And he definitely doesn't. Like, this beginning part of this episode shows you, without any doubt in your mind, that Maddox does not have the skills necessary to keep Data alive.
Well, he doesn't even, I mean, that's like it's failure to launch. It's like, he doesn't even think Data is alive, so, like, why would he try to keep him alive?
He doesn't
like, he's
care
not
about
alive.
the essence of the memories. He only cares about the information.
Yeah.
And
you know what I only care about?
Taking a break.
Yes!
I'm like a fucking detective, man. We'll be right back after these messages from probably not a sponsor.
Excuse me, I'm interested in the new collector's ornament from Hallmark.
Ah, the shuttlecraft Galileo from the Starship Enterprise.
Precisely.
You know, it lights up when you plug it in. And listen.
Shuttlecraft to Enterprise. Spock here. Happy holidays. Live long and prosper.
Fascinating.
For a store in your sector now carrying the Star Trek ornament, call 1-800-HALLMARK.
Live long and prosper, right?
No. I'll take 5.
And we're back. Hopefully that was a good commercial.
Yeah, it was, because I put it there.
You don't know. Future you might just be like, whatever, fucking...
Maybe.
Who cares?
Maybe. You never know with me. I'm like Data in that way. Who knows?
Who knows if you have a soul or not?
I definitely don't.
Uh-oh.
Because I'm a redhead.
I knew it. I
remember South Park?
Knew you were gonna do that.
Remember South Park?
Oh my god.
They said it.
Don't you love that? Don't you love it when people just say jokes from things?
I love that, and I especially love it when I walk down the street and people say it to me who I don't know, and I'm like, yeah, that's real funny. You must be really fucking funny to be around.
Dude, I feel the same way about, like, I can literally for the rest of my life now never say the phrase, my name is Jeff.
Because of 22 Jump Street?
Yeah, for a fucking sequel to a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Like, I can never say that again because some completely unfunny piece of shit is gonna go, my name's Jeff. Which is not only unfunny, but also a little racist.
But, right, because, right. Funny maybe at the time when it was a thing, but maybe when
it's gonna be a thing forever now is the thing.
Right. I just hate that South Park shit. They're repeating the South Park jokes. I fucking hate it. Well, South Park makes stupid people feel smart. That's
it really does. It's like it was Rick and Morty before Rick and Morty happened.
It's the first Rick and Morty. You're exactly right.
And if you feel smart because of Rick and Morty, I'm not sorry. When we left our hero, Data, who definitely has a soul.
Definitely.
Maddox had said, look, I don't need you to join my experiment because I'm in charge of you. And Data's like, actually, you're not, because I resigned my Starfleet commission.
Exactly.
And he's like, well, I'm going to go change that right now.
Yeah. And he does somehow.
Yeah, he finds a loophole in, like, the law that says that, like, Data is Starfleet property. Here's a plot hole.
Yes.
And I waited the entire episode for someone to fill the plot hole. Dr. Noonien Sung did not work for Starfleet in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
He did not give Data to Starfleet. Data chose to join Starfleet.
Right. I will try to fill the plot hole with my explanation of this. Because I also thought this similar thing. I was like, well, because Data isn't a race, right? That's true. Not yet legally, anyway. He's not a race. He doesn't have his own species. So the Prime Directive kind of doesn't apply to him. He was built on a Federation world, but also, like, him joining Starfleet, I guess, is, like, the loophole where, like, well, he joined, so he has no legal legal rights. Yeah. So him joining Starfleet makes him property of Starfleet in their view.
That's Maddox's, like, counter. He's like, he's property. He's like a machine. He has no more right to refuse his procedure than a computer.
Yeah.
And it's funny that, like, he was so big on, like, him being Starfleet property when he was the one that was trying to keep him out of Starfleet to begin with.
It's ironic, yeah. But he's a vulture. He's a piece of fucking human shit.
Yeah,
so.
He is a piece of human shit. It's true. He does not belong in Starfleet whatsoever.
Yeah, he should probably be, like, court-martialed and got run out of the service, as they say.
Yeah, and, like, Philip is like, well, there might be some law that'll support his position. Yeah. So I'll look into it. And they're throwing Data like a going away party, which is cute.
Oh, that's pretty funny when he's unwrapping the present. Yeah. And he's like taking the wrapping paper off all fucking delicately and shit. Data.
He's so cute. But
classic Data.
Geordi is like, there's like a real understated emotional scene here. Because by this point, I don't think Geordi had admitted that Data's his best friend yet.
Yeah, he didn't know.
And he's like horribly broken up by the fact that Data's leaving.
He's like a little kid. Like, the way he says the line, he's like, well, you're going away. He's like a little kid.
He is really, and he's also like, it's just not fair.
Yeah, he's like, he can't handle it. Like, it's too much.
It's his best friend leaving.
Yeah.
When you leave the country, I'm going to be the same way. I'm going to be like, you're going away, Josh.
Yeah, I might get stuck over there, so.
You're going away for 2 days.
2 days. 2 weeks.
But Captain Philippa comes back and she's like, well, Maddox is right.
Yeah.
So he can't resign and he can't refuse to undergo the procedure.
It's crazy.
And Picard is fucking pissed.
Yeah, at this point you're like, fuck you.
Yeah, you're like, maybe the Federation's full of shit, you know?
Maybe it is. That's the thing, man.
And it's like the ideals of the Federation aren't being lived up to, is what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's like kind of like what we as Americans are going through right now. Like, we're seeing how fragile democracy is and how fragile freedom is and how it requires maintenance. Like, you can't just let it go. Yeah. It needs to be upkept, you know?
Not to go the full nerd route on our Star Trek podcast or anything, but
yeah, I mean,
why
would we?
There's a couple panels from a Captain America comic where he says, he's holding the flag and he says, well, without living up to the ideals this country is meant to live up to, this flag is just a piece of garbage. It's trash that isn't even fit to wipe your mouth with.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything if the foundation isn't there. Like, the symbol means bullshit. If like, yeah.
That's my favorite thing about Captain America is that, like, if all the, like, redneck piece of shit, like, alt-writers read a Captain America comic, they would hate his guts.
Yeah, because he's, like...
he's liberal as fuck.
Yeah, he's, like, right, well, what's what they would call liberal, where it's actually, like, just the alt-writers are just so right that they're, like, anything in the center looks like liberal.
Well, I mean, there was the thing where the NPR, like, had people read the fucking Bill of Rights, and they got death threats from all writers.
They got death threats. It's like, yep.
Pieces of human garbage. But anyway,
they're all a bunch of fucking Bruce Maddoxes, dude.
Because like Picard wants to have a hearing, but there's no one there besides Philippa.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, we'll do a hearing, but you guys have to be legal counsel. Like, the commanding officer, Picard, has to be the defendant, the fucking lawyer for the defendant.
Yeah.
A monkey wrench is that the next highest officer has to be the prosecution, which is Riker. And Riker's like, fuck no.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
He's my friend. I believe in him. I'm not gonna be against him in this. And they're like, well, if you don't do it, he has to be the fucking possession of Starfleet. He's just a thing.
They'll just the hearing won't happen and the ruling stands, right?
And he says, all right, if I have to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, and she says, if I fucking even sniff that you're fucking around with this, I'm shutting this shit down. She gets real...
Yeah, she's pissed off about it. Because, I mean, like, if you were Riker and she hadn't said that, you'd be like, well, Data, if you're not a human, how come you can blink?
Right, yeah, you can just phone it the fuck in.
Yeah.
Throw the case.
It's... Right, I do not envy Riker's position in this whatsoever.
This is a horrible... Like, this episode, it just gets worse. It has everything that a good courtroom drama has, and that's if you watch any good courtroom drama like 12 Angry Men or whatever, well, it always starts out with like the ethical stance as like insurmountable, like,
oh yeah, and it gets worse and worse and worse throughout the whole episode. And it gets
worse, right? And then there's like that moment when like the people who are on the right like seemingly like can't win, and that's what every good courtroom drama does, and this episode does that perfectly.
Oh fuck yeah, you're 100% right.
It's great.
You're like smart guy.
At this point, it's like a setup. Like, this feels like a setup. You're like, this is bullshit.
Yeah,
like,
at this point, it's like everything possible is against Data. Like, how is he ever going to come out of this?
Yes.
And there's a great moment where Picard brings Data to his ready room, and he's like, well, we're going to have this trial, and I'm going to be your legal counsel, but if you would be happier with anybody else, like any other officer, and Data says, no, I believe in you entirely, and your abilities to legally represent me, and Picard, like, sheds a single tear.
I love you, Picard.
I want everyone to hug. Nobody hugs. I want them to fucking hug.
No hugging. It's the military. You don't hug in the military.
But Riker looks up Data's technical schematics, right? And there is some fucking top-notch face acting going on in this scene.
This is such a great scene because, like, now you're getting, like, a glimpse into, like, Riker. Like, this is, like, a character-building exercise for Riker at this point.
Like, he's looking at the screen in the schematics, and he starts smiling because he found something. Yeah. And then his entire face, the smile just bleeds out of his face as he realizes that whatever he found is going to have to be used against Data.
Right. And for that brief moment, he was like hotshot Commander William Riker. He was going to win. He's going to win, right? He knows he's going to win. That's Riker.
And then,
but then he realizes
it's what it's going to cost.
Right, the stakes.
And it completely like bleeds out of his face is the best way I could put it, because he looks so wounded and deflated by it.
That's a really good way to. That's perfect.
And like the hearing starts, and Riker is like, he's on the gallows, right? Like he looks like he hates every second of being there.
Yeah.
This is where the part we talked about earlier, if we recorded it, I don't remember, but we talk a lot before we record.
It's been known to happen.
But this exact scene happens in court martial where they're starting to read out Captain Kirk's service record and all of his awards and everything. And the opposition is like, we don't need to hear all this. And he's like, no, we do need to hear it.
Yeah, we want to hear it.
And the exact same thing happens with Data's records.
Yeah. I like that. That's a very it's a very like Star Wars thing to do, where you're bringing like a callback, and you're like, oh, history repeats itself,
it's
right?
Like poetry.
It's like poetry.
Each verse rhymes with the next. But
he's never gonna ever not be made fun of for that.
No,
and like that's like literally like what Star Wars does, and people are just like, fuck you, George, you invented Star Wars, you asshole, fuck off.
Yeah, fuck you, George. I feel bad for him. I really do. Like,
yeah, I do too, honestly. Imagine inventing Star Wars and then hating it like he does.
That sucks. And
that sucks.
Like, people won't leave him the fuck alone. Like, he doesn't even make it anymore, and people won't leave him alone.
They still blame him for shit. It's crazy.
It's fucking leave the man alone.
Leave the man and his multi-billion dollars alone.
Yeah, I'm sure he could cry into his billions of dollars. But they go through this beginning part of the court case where Riker's like, are you a machine? And he's like, yeah, I'm a machine. And he says, and you were made by, and he's a human. And he goes through all of his like storage ability and like his processing power, which isn't really that powerful.
Yeah, it sounded like a lot back then, but now you're like, wait a minute.
Bits? Like, not even like kilobits?
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah, you would want to move that decimal over a few places to the right.
And then there's a great moment where, like, I didn't know this term existed, but Riker's like, Data, bend this rod of like superpower steel or whatever, and Picard's like, objection, there are many races in the Federation that are possessed of mega strength.
Yeah, they have mega strength.
And the weirdest part is, like, Captain Phillip is like, nah, I want to see it.
Yeah,
like, how does that? What do you? She doesn't even give a reason why. She's just like, no, I need to see it.
Yeah, it's almost like, because I think it's almost like it's a freak show at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a circus. Like, this at this point, the proceedings are a circus, literally. She wants to see him do it because like, she's curious.
Riker is like really good at what he's doing, and you can tell he fucking hates what he's doing.
Yeah,
because he does this thing where he deactivates Data, and he says Pinocchio is broken, its strings have been
cut. Yeah,
and then he goes back to his seat and just fucking hangs his head.
Yeah, he just puts his head in his hands, and it's like crushing, dude.
And like, but Picard's like, I need a recess.
But they're like mortified. Like,
yeah,
it's almost like it. It's almost like he does such a good job that he's proving the point that Picard is trying to make, because people were like, everyone in that room was like, oh my god, like, this is fucked up.
Yeah, everybody's like immediately was like shocked by it.
Yeah, because he like dismembers him, he takes his arm off, he turns him off.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, oh my fucking god. And like, once that happens, it's like, that's all the proof you should need at that point if Data's a person.
Well, it's like, they didn't believe it at that point. Like, Riker had won at that point. Picard thought he had absolutely no chance.
Right, but like, really the opposite starts to take place is the really fucking interesting part about this episode.
My favorite scene in this episode, besides like Picard's big monologue at the end, is this scene when he goes to 10 forward and he's like trying to sort of drown his sorrows because he knows he's gonna lose, and he talks to Guinan about his situation with Data. And she starts to like slowly hint towards the idea of Data being used as disposable creatures.
Yeah.
And like, Picard like slowly starts to realize,
he starts to get it,
that she's talking about slavery, and the look on his face is pure fucking horror.
Yeah.
And
they're going to create a slave race.
We were just walking around the issue, like, completely oblivious to what we were really discussing.
They couldn't see the forest through the trees. They don't realize in the moment how big this is.
And this is like the idea I was talking about earlier of Picard being the learning man in this episode. He doesn't have any of the answers.
Right.
Even when he wins the case later, spoilers, I guess.
Right.
He's asking questions that cause the case to be won. He doesn't have any of the answers.
Right. It's brilliant. It's really brilliant. Like, I can't think of a better.
The Federation was about to create a slave race.
Yeah.
And Data's life was being, like, given up.
That would have been it. That would have been it for the Federation. That would have been it. And that's all it would have taken, is this one thing.
And
like, how fucking crazy is that?
Picard is like a man possessed at this point. Like, he seems like he's not even thinking about what he's saying when he first sits back down, and he's like, you know, he said that Data's a machine. Do we deny that? No. It's not relevant. We're machines too. And, like, he goes through all this shit, and he sends Data to the witness stand. And ingeniously starts going through those personal belongings we saw earlier.
Yeah, he pulls his medals out. He's like, why did you want these? He's like, Data's like, I don't know. I just thought I should take them. I just wanted them.
Does that mean vanity?
Yeah.
But the one that really gets everybody is he puts that hollow cube down of Tasha Yar. And Data's like nervous about this one. He's like a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
And he reveals that they had been intimate. And everyone in the room is completely shocked, especially
except for the one guy in the back who goes,
"Woo!" A guy named Josh in the back.
It's crazy that one guy is back there.
One
weird.
Bald, red-bearded dude in the back starts yelling, and his brown-bearded friend like pulls him back real quick. Shh!
Shut up, man! Shut up!
He fucked her.
He fucked her. He put his penis inside of her.
But like Philippa is like unbelievably taken aback by this.
Yeah, it's like her modesty. Oh my! She like has the vapors, dude. It's crazy.
But she's like a machine.
Yeah.
Felt he was intimate with a human being.
Yeah.
And I love that Picard's like, I want Maddox. I call Maddox to the stand as a hostile witness.
Yeah. Treat him as a hostile witness. And, fuck yeah.
And he like fucking tears into him. He's like, well, what are your criteria for sentience? Am I sentient?
Yeah.
Prove that I'm sentient.
He says,
right
prove
now.
that. Yeah. And then he kind of, Maddox kind of laughs, and he's like, this is ridiculous because you can't. And he's
like, well, why can't you?
Yeah.
What is the difference between me and Data right now?
Mm-hmm.
What makes me sentient and him not?
Yep.
And
he goes through the list, and it's like self-awareness and whatever. All the other two.
It's consciousness, intelligence, and self-awareness.
Self-awareness, yeah.
And he goes through intelligence and self-awareness and proves that he has both of them.
Yeah.
And he's like, well,
let's go for the third one.
He's like, what are you gonna do if you can recreate Data? What are you gonna be doing? How many? And he's like 1,000. And he's like, they'll be on ships or whatever. And he's basically like, you're creating a slave race.
Yeah.
And he gives this amazing speech.
It's crazy good.
And I don't know. I have like the urge to read it since it's.
I don't even want to. Yeah, I don't even want to like quote it. It's just There's so many. Think about it from like I always look at this like I've seen this episode like 50 times.
Oh, I have to. Yeah.
I always think about it from like try to look at it from different perspectives, and I always tend to shift toward like if I were to write this. And I always think like that I don't think I ever could. Maybe, but like the people who wrote this thought of this in such a interesting way. Like they were like, what do historical quotes sound like now to us? And then like reverse engineered the script to sound like quotes that you would hear like from the Declaration of Independence or from the Constitution or from the Magna Carta in real time in a show about an android.
Like,
it's fucking mind-blowing.
There's like a ramping up of like tension in this episode that culminates in like the absolute high of tension in this speech. And by the time he finishes talking, you feel like completely at peace suddenly.
Yeah.
And Captain Philippa giving her speech afterwards, you feel like you've had like a journey emotionally.
Yes.
Watching this episode, and her speech is really good too.
Hers is amazing. Like they're both incredible, and hers is more like like what you read like legal like Supreme Court justices write after they rule on something really big. Like hers reads like that. And again, they like I would not be shocked if they went and read stuff like that to write her lines to be like, what does it sound like when they decide this stuff?
It's like the line that always sticks with me is that, does Data have a soul? I don't know that he has. I don't know that I have.
It's perfect.
It's absolutely perfect.
Perfect. Because I think the reason you feel that calm is because you know that the issue has been settled. Like you as the viewer in this episode are so keyed up this whole episode, and finally someone's talking rational sense. And that's what Star Trek is. I don't ever want to... If you ever want to watch Star Trek, watch this episode over and over again. This is Star Trek.
This is the heart and soul of Star Trek.
Yes.
Like, everything else is window dressing to this.
This is the reason that Star Trek matters, and the reason that's important, and the reason why it matters that Star Trek isn't about fucking explosions and killing Klingons and fucking whatever the fuck.
If you watch this episode and you feel these feelings, you will never be able to watch, like, Bang Bang Shoot 'em Up Star Trek again and not feel completely hollow.
And be like, what the fuck is this?
But, like, you even get some catharsis because Data, like, goes up to Maddox and he's like, I formally refuse to undergo your procedure.
I formally...
And you feel that punch. You feel that he gives that back to him.
And Maddox is like fucking, like Shooter McGavin smiling through his teeth like a fucking prick.
But, like, you feel like he has changed by this situation as well. Like, he had to learn in this situation because, like, he says he'd called Data it the entire episode.
Yeah, he switches.
And he says he's amazing, and even the judge points out, you just said he.
Yeah.
And he, like, walks away like he's in love with Data now.
This is really lame, and everyone's gonna groan, but Maddox was the real robot. It's true, though.
You're right. Because he's so unbending.
He's unfeeling. No empathy. He calls it. He calls Data it. And then he switches back to being a person. He's a human being again. Because human beings have empathy. That's what we are. Yeah. That's what we do. That's why we got here.
That's how we got to there. How we got here is a series of unfortunate events.
Which is our next podcast is about the Netflix show, A Series of Unfortunate Events.
I've never watched it, never read it.
It's about a baby and some kids, and they get beat by an old man.
Oh, no.
They get, like, tortured, like, mentally by this
I don't want to watch that.
And then Data shows up and says, not on my watch.
And then he hugs everybody.
And then he has a rocket pack and they fly away.
The ending of this episode is perfect.
This whole episode is perfect.
It really is. Like, Riker is staring out the window in a dark room, and Data comes in and he's like, hey, we're having a victory celebration on the holodeck.
Yeah.
Why aren't you there? And Riker's like, well, why am I not there? I almost cost you your life.
Yeah.
Like, I was the prosecution.
Yeah, I tried to get you killed, basically, right?
Like, yeah, and Data's like, well, if you hadn't, then I never would have had the chance to not be.
Right. He said you injured yourself to save me. Because he says, like, if you hadn't have done it, she would have ruled that I was property.
Yeah.
But you did it, and it injured you.
He says, yeah, you injured yourself in order to save me, and I won't soon forget it. And Riker smiles and says he's a wise man, and they walk out together.
And he says, not yet, sir. It's, oh, God, it's, like, so fucking perfect. It's
but with
like,
your help, I am learning. And they leave to go to his celebration together.
Oh, my God, Star Trek. Get fucked how good you are.
God, like... This episode is so fucking good. Like, if you can watch this episode and be like, Star Trek's boring, then you are soulless.
Well, you're probably an idiot.
Yeah, you really are.
Like, no offense, but, like, you probably don't like things that involve thinking. So, like, I don't know.
The heart and soul of Star Trek is in this 40 minutes, or however long this episode is.
Yeah, I know. I like to since we're doing the trials episodes, and I like to put JJ on trial.
Oh my God! He found the connection, everybody.
I will say that another thing that bothers me, like fundamentally about the 2009 universe, is that they have one of those fake data androids on their ships, that Android 07 whatever the fuck. And it's like, well, so is he like a slave?
Yeah, I guess so. Well,
like,
I mean, they dress like Nazis,
his
own? Dude. Like,
well, they do dress like Nazis because,
this is like a different universe, and it's not an equal universe. Like, if somebody says that, well, it's a different universe, but it's just as good, like, you're an idiot.
No. It's a terrible nightmare universe.
It's
like
exactly
our
the opposite of what Star Trek should be in almost every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, if I wanted to go see Nazis, I would just turn the fucking news on and watch the
walk outside.
Talk. Yeah,
look, there's everywhere.
Nazis. Oh, cool, they're in the White House. Great.
Yeah, cool. Fucking awesome.
I can't wait.
It's this dumbing down. And I don't know, there are always those people, and I always love to bring them up, that are like, oh, well, like when TNG came out, people said the same thing. TNG got better, motherfucker. These movies are terrible.
Yeah, they're not, yeah.
Like, Beyond was better, but it's like, I don't know, a fucking dead animal carcass is better than a piece of shit. Like, it's not good.
That old say.
I've seen that on a tapestry.
I think it's like they put it on on vanity plates and stuff.
You the Home Sweet Home tapestries? I read one that said that once.
Yeah. Did you know that Sean, Zane, and I would buy those for each other? We'd try to find the shittiest ones and we'd buy them for each other. Yeah. I have like 4 of them in my house.
Oh my God.
One of them says I hope it's wine o'clock or something like that. Dude, I got one for Zane, I think 2 Christmases ago, that said boss lady.
Oh my God.
Because it was like the worst one I've ever seen.
Dude, what if you would have found one that said horse lady? That would have been a million times
better.
That
would have been better. She would have probably actually liked that.
Boss horse lady.
Boss horse lady.
Fucking... We harp on the JJ universe pretty heavily, and I don't want to bring up Discovery because our patrons should be getting our first episode of the Hidden Discovery collection soon.
Hidden Discovery collection. That's a very clever. What's the thing when it's opposite?
The jumbo shrimp thing.
Yeah. What's the word? Palindrome.
Yeah.
No, that's when it's
palindrome
backwards.
is race car.
That's like Hannah. Yeah, Hannah and race car.
Yeah.
Oxymoron,
yeah. The Hidden Discovery Collection. And it's, I think I call it the Secret Discovery Collection.
Ooh.
Whatever. But that's patreon.com/mclasspodcast if you want to get on that.
Yeah.
But we harp on these because they don't live up to what Star Trek is. And people will be like, oh, well, TOS didn't have the same type of stuff TNG did in it. But it had, the heart and soul that this better future that we could attain.
Right.
Where people are striving for something that's, an ideal. Right. No one's striving for an ideal in Discovery.
Yeah, they're not. They're concerned with personal interests. They're concerned with their problems as people. And I mean,
that comes up in all of the series, but the greater good of everyone is put ahead of it.
Right.
I don't know. There's just a frustration that I feel deep in the core of my being that this is what Star Trek is now to people.
Yeah. I said it earlier. Everyone who likes the 2009 universe is a Bruce Maddox. There it is.
Oh.
Cut to Patreon money.
Zero.
Negative $400.
I can't pay that.
How does that even happen?
Fuck. It's frustrating.
It is.
I see people who are like, I really want I want a new JJ movie. I want a new JJ Star Trek movie. I don't.
I don't want him to do anything ever again. I don't want him to do anything.
I'll tell people an idea I have for a Star Trek game. I had this great idea for a Star Trek video game where you play security chief and you're transporting prisoners to an outpost. And when you get there, the outpost is taken over by their comrades.
Right.
And you have to figure out a way to get off the outpost when it's completely controlled by them.
Nice.
And people were like, yeah, fuck, yeah, you could have, like, the JJ universe shit in it. People would love it. And I'm like, fucking burn it down. I don't want the idea
now
anymore.
We're not making it anymore. Yeah. Everything just... Whatever. This is a whole other fucking conversation.
It's a really great idea for a game, by the way, everybody.
It is. That's amazing.
Just send that to the companies and be like, Jeff Pennington wrote this. Give him money. Do my work for me. Send it out.
Do my work for me. Right away, Mr. Pennington.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is that 2 N's in Pennington or 1?
It's 2. It's 2, everybody.
We have 3 in that word, right?
Yeah, 3 N's altogether. Anyway, Josh is right, and that this is an entirely different podcast that we've already done.
Yeah, but I think it bears repeating because apparently, like, I think people, especially with me, I can't speak for you, Jeff, but with me, I feel like people think that I'm just, like, fixated and it's turned into, like, a bit. But this episode is the exact reason why I hate.
It's not a bit either.
It's not a bit. Right. I really do think he's a terrible writer because he is.
And I really do hate Star Trek, the movie, like Star Trek 2009 and Into Darkness, and Beyond. I really don't like either.
I'll watch Beyond because it's not Into Darkness.
Yeah, exactly. Into Darkness is. If I had to pick the worst movie I've ever seen, it might be Into Darkness.
It might be. It's definitely up there.
And it's not just because it's bad. Like, if I was just going on, like, pure badness, I would probably choose, like, Howard the Duck or something.
Yeah, but Howard the Duck is even way more interesting than...
It's Into Darkness tramples over a legacy as well. Like, no one was clamoring for the legacy of Howard the Duck.
Yeah, Howard the Duck, nobody even knew it was a comic book when that movie came out. It was like, what is this? And that movie I watched with a friend of mine so we could make fun of it. I think I've told this story movie
before.
Of mine. I used to watch it all the time when I was a kid.
Oh my god! I think I told this story before. I'd not seen it, and I sat down with a friend of mine, and we were going to make fun of it, and we had like a great time, like laughing at it and making fun of it, and then we just kind of got quiet
because it got.
And my friend was like, "How much longer is this movie?" And I looked, and it had only been on for 22 minutes.
Dude, oh my god.
We finished it in silence. Like, we had nothing else to say.
That's it. You said all the things. Yeah. Oh, man.
But Into Darkness is worse. It's worse.
Do you wanna come back after a break and do final thoughts?
Yeah, we'll come back and we'll do final thoughts on this episode since we sort of danced around it this whole time. We'll be right back.
Consider that in the history of many worlds, there have always been disposable creatures. They do the dirty work. They do the work that no one else wants to do because it's too difficult or too hazardous. And an army of data's all disposable. You don't have to think about their welfare. You don't think about how they feel. Whole generations of disposable people.
He's talking about slavery.
I think that's a little harsh.
I don't think that's a little harsh. I think that's the truth. But that's a truth that we have obscured behind a comfortable, easy euphemism. Property. But that's not the issue at all, is it?
And we're back.
Yeah, baby.
With our final thoughts on the episode. Josh, what are your final thoughts on The Measure of a Man, if you could possibly sum that up?
I feel like I've said a lot about this, but I feel like I've said nothing about this.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think that there are words to describe how genius this episode is. This is some of the best writing in television history. It's a meaningful episode for all time. Like, you could, especially now in America, you should be watching this and being like, oh, right, I forgot that there are ideals that we used to have and that we used to look to and we had a path that we were on as a country where we allowed people to come here and, you know, live their lives and make a better life.
We treated people like they were people. We understood that the measure of a man is equal from man to woman to man to woman.
Right, we're all created equal. Right.
Non-gendered and everything else, you know? Like, the measure of a man is the soul. And whether you believe in the soul or not, like, the culmination of the being. The inexplicable part of a human being that makes us human. And everyone shares that, regardless of what you look like on the outside, what genitalia you have, like, whether you were born the correct gender or not, or who you want to have sex with.
Right.
Or don't, for that matter.
Right, exactly.
Like, none of that matters for who the person is.
Yep. It's more. There's more to things than the surface of things, right? And also, like, that we have empathy, and we should probably, like, try to remember that we have that superpower. It really is like a superpower.
It is. Like,
I don't need to, like, hear you say something for me to know you feel bad. It's like, how does that work, right? Like,
it's like there's no input, sensory input. You just feel it. You can understand. Like, honestly, if you sit with someone, like, if Josh and I right now are on this line together, and we both sat here silently for 5 minutes, we would both know exactly how the other person felt during those 5 minutes.
Not just because we're, like, clones of each other.
Well, that's true. Like, we're twins, so we can feel each other's pain.
I'm the Danny DeVito twin.
I would request, since I feel your pain, for you to stop masturbating so hard.
Pain or pleasure?
You're using, like, one of those gloves that you defur cats with, so...
Jeff, sometimes the other things just don't work anymore.
Look, I tried the belt around my neck. It just doesn't work anymore.
It's 3 a.m, and Jeff is like, God damn it, Josh!
My dick! Oh, what's happening?
Oh, my dick's got razor blades!
What is he using? Oh!
I fucked a razor blade.
Oh, no. How did he even manage that?
You can put your mind to anything.
I guess. Empathy is a superpower that other beings on this planet, like, a lot of other beings don't have. Like, dogs have it, but, like, what else can you think of? Like, fucking birds don't have it.
It's a tough one to measure. It's, you know, it's real tough to say, like, something does or doesn't have it.
That's true.
But, I don't.
It blows
it's part of
my
why
mind.
It's what makes us humans.
It blows my mind that we as human beings can look at, like, Mexican immigrants and be like, that person is not as human as me. Which, how could you ever think that?
It blows my mind because it's disgusting.
Yeah.
But it totally makes sense because, like, people are afraid and they'll do anything to feel better than anyone, and it's sad. And that's because the world is, like, fundamentally, like, broken.
That's
like, there's, like, a major...
Very, very true. I mean, fucking my great-grandparents came over on a boat from Ireland. Like,
yeah,
from both sides of my family.
Fucking everyone's did!
Yeah, but I mean...
I'm not Native American. I wasn't born here.
Here's the thing, like, these fucking honkies don't think that way. They don't think I wasn't Native American, so I wasn't born here. They think well, my fucking parents were, like, in the Revolutionary War, my great-grandparents or whatever.
But it's like, where the fuck did you come?
Yeah, but, like, my family were, like, literal immigrants that were treated the same way. The immigrants, not quite the same, not anywhere near the same way. Like, fucking, their families weren't torn apart and put in fucking concentration camps or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I can't wait to read the comments from fucking fat pieces of shit on their keyboards about this episode.
I'm sure we're really pissing off some people, but
don't listen to the podcast, asshole.
I don't know how you can even like Star Trek, honestly. If you believe, I honestly don't know.
I will say this with 100% certainty: if you love Star Trek and you have if anything we've said has pissed you off in this episode, if it wasn't some nerd opinion, you are a genuinely brain dead moron.
You're very confused.
Like, I could not understand how you could love Star Trek and have those type of opinions, but
Anyway.
This is all good. This all stays in. But
no, I'm not taking any of this out.
No, this is Star Trek. This is what Star Trek is.
You're exactly right, and I agree.
I feel like people miss the metaphor in Star Trek.
I feel like people think that metaphors are just metaphors, and they don't have any like bearing on reality, which is crazy.
And like that's why we got that email once from a fan who was like, "Do you feel like metaphor has a place in science fiction anymore?" And we were both pro metaphor.
Yeah.
If you just show the issue at face value, you're not going to get the people who missed the metaphor. They missed it on purpose. Like there was a part of them that specifically chose not to understand that metaphor.
Right.
And if you just showed it at face value, you wouldn't have people watching.
A like worst case, like a worst example of this is like in Last Jedi when the sound cuts out for that scene when she crashes.
And like people were like, well, fucking the sound in my movie theater was
like,
broken.
Have you ever watched a movie? Like I to me, like at that point it's like you should just probably stop going to movies now.
Yeah, you're probably not gonna get movies.
Yeah, you're not really going to them for any real reason. Well, like, I don't think.
A really good example of that is maybe I'll piss off the other side of the aisle real quick.
Oh, cool.
The other good example of that is the short that was in front of the Infinity Gauntlet, or no, The Incredibles 2. It was in front of The Incredibles 2.
I didn't see it.
It was called Bow.
Okay.
And in it, like, it's a metaphor for like motherhood and like empty nest syndrome.
Sure.
And so she makes a dumpling, and it becomes like a little kid. And then it shows her like raising the kid and everything, and then like it grows up into a teenager and then leaves home.
Right.
And she eats the dumpling, and like as like a metaphor for like destroying their relationship.
Yeah.
And then the actual kid shows up, and his head is shaped like a giant fucking dumpling and has the same face on it.
Right.
And people in the audience like went home and were like, that was the most confusing 5 minutes of my life.
That is literally the least confusing metaphor I have ever heard in my entire life.
It is unbelievably blatant.
That is almost too blatant. It's almost like I almost rolled my eyes and was like, okay, yeah.
Like his head is shaped like a giant fucking dumpling. How could you miss that?
Dude,
and there are people who are still like,
art's hard.
And the thing that's going to piss off the other side of the aisle a little bit maybe is that there are all these articles that are like, oh, well, white people don't understand other people's cultures.
Right.
And I'm like, no, these people are fucking morons. It's not because they're white they don't understand it. It's because they're brain dead.
They didn't go to school and they didn't pay attention, or they didn't go to a school that allowed them to like experience art, which
it's a blatant metaphor that anyone with 2 brain cells, regardless of where they came from, should understand. It's a basic, like if you had a parent, you should understand that.
Even if you didn't have a parent,
you
should understand that.
It's like a universal thing.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, that one.
And it just blows my mind that anybody could miss that shit.
Yeah, it's just I mean,
maybe there is something to it being like a cultural thing, since everybody who doesn't get it is white. It seems like.
Well, I don't necessarily know if it has anything to do with color, but it certainly has to do with lack of education.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like
that probably has more to do with it.
We're just a country of like really stupid idiots now. So
like this ties back into Star Trek, is like so many people don't like Star Trek because it's boring, quote unquote.
Right.
But like it's, if you think Star Trek is boring, you might be dumb. Like I hate to say that about anybody, so blanket statement like, but like I don't know.
You definitely
you don't learn to understand things. You don't put that time into it, and so much of our country is built on anti-intellectualism now.
Yeah,
like it's bad really to be smart.
I don't know, man. I don't even know. Like, I don't know. I really like hope that if people did watch, like, had never seen this before or never listened to this podcast before, like, I hope that you enjoyed this, because that means that there's hope for us.
Like us as a species, human beings.
We need more of this. We need more of this episode in the world.
Yeah.
Not just that. We need more things to be like this. Like Twilight Zone.
Like somebody in your stream earlier said that if Star Trek was like Star Trek Online and not boring, slow moving through space, then they would have watched it. And the funny part is, like, I'm already kind of bored with the combat in Star Trek Online.
Yeah, the combat exactly. The combat in the game is like just the gamey part of it, where you're like, okay, now I have to fight these guys.
Yeah, it's the story that's the engaging part of it.
The story moves you through the game, yeah. And it's exactly it.
That's the Star Trek, the part of Star Trek that's engaging is the story and the inner character, like, ideals, and it's just, it's a beautiful thing.
Same thing with, like, the Old Republic. Like, you pick your class and you have a story and you meet characters. Like, go out and kill 15 Imperial snipers. Like, I don't care about that shit. That's just the quest I have to do to get to the next story.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, like, whatever. I mean,
it's
people...
Like, well, the fighting and combat in Star Trek Online is like bang bang shoot 'em up JJ Trek.
It's crazy fast. It's chaos,
but
really.
It has a story behind it, unlike JJ Trek.
Right.
But,
and eventually, like, the gamey part of it is, like, you know, the min-maxing. It's an MMO, so it's like you min-max. That's fun, too, but, like, the actual combat is just, it's combat.
I got nothing against Star Trek Online. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I'm agreeing with you.
I love Star Trek, and there's a whole new generation of people who are getting into Star Trek, and, like, that's the only thing I can really thank the new Star Trek shows for, is that people are going back and being like, holy shit, this is way better than the stuff I saw.
Yeah,
like, the stuff I saw was interesting, but this is, like, this has a real message behind it.
Yeah, I also feel like, again, this is, like, a whole other thing. I also feel like there's that, like, the other side of the coin is, like, well, you just complain about whatever, and it's like, who are you to complain? And it's, I mean, who's anyone to feel anything of anything?
Exactly. Like, why should we not complain? Who are you to tell us that we can't complain?
Right. It's not, I'm not one of these people who it's like, well, it exists, like, yippity fucking doodah, like, oh, great. Like, yeah, things are gonna exist that are gonna exist. Like, it's always been that way. Like, there's always gonna be stories in some form. But if you're gonna tell this story, like the Star Trek story, you better fucking do it right. Like, that's my opinion.
We had a conversation on Jeff and Josh Shoot the Shit, guest starring Kevin Cole as Kevin, where we talked about Star Wars. And I put forth the idea that you can't throw out everything that came before because you don't agree with it.
Right.
And Star Wars is like, it's whatever, because, like, whatever came before episode 8 was just episode 7. That history is yet to be written for that trilogy, so it's whatever. Like, I don't have a hard stance for that.
Right.
But for Star Trek, I absolutely do. If you're going into Star Trek and you're like, I don't care about all the stuff that came before, I don't care about the meaning behind what I'm making, you need to be making something else.
Yeah, that should be like a prerequisite for anyone who wants to make a Star Trek anything, is that, and again, like, not to suck Star Trek Online's dick, but, like, those people fucking love Star Trek.
I was about to say, like, kick the fucking writer's room out of Discovery. They don't know Star Trek. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Bring in the STO people. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing, and they. I think I've told you so many times before on other episodes before you started playing the game, like, they really write themselves out of bullshit in that game, impressively. Like Doctor Who style, impressively write yourself out of bullshit.
Doctor Who is like, it's really good at that.
It's fucking incredible at that, and you believe it because you're like, oh right, Doctor Who, right? That's how this game works. And sometimes you're like, why the fuck didn't anyone just write this in a movie? I don't know. I don't know. They don't care. Nobody cares. There's no the buck stops here. Nobody cares. The buck stops at if it made $1 billion or not. That's all that matters.
Did you hear that Tarantino's movie is supposed to be a JJ sequel?
Yeah, I also somebody was telling me that Patrick Stewart wants to be Picard again, and they asked me how I felt about that. And I said, well, I love Patrick Stewart, so
yeah. And the thing about that is the rumors are that he's supposed to be in one of the Alex Kurtzman series.
Yeah,
and they're talking about it being the animated one, which makes more sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
but Marina Sirtis they asked her about it, and she was like, "Yeah, I think that's a rumor."
Oh, maybe not then. Yeah, I mean, but she's pretty honest about that stuff.
Maybe she just doesn't know. Maybe she hasn't been asked.
Maybe
because they already burned bridges with Michael Dorn.
I can't believe that he. I love. You know what I love? Secretly, not so secretly, because I'm recording this. Me talking about it. Right
Everyone
now.
Will know now. Yeah.
I love that he did STO and doesn't want to do Discovery.
Well, the reason why he doesn't want to do Discovery is because they want to give him less than 1% of what he made last time he played Worf.
Yeah,
less
and also
than 1%.
He's like a big draw. He's like a guy that I would watch the show for. I'd be like, oh, Michael Dorn's in it? Fuck yeah, dude.
They're like, fucking bring on all these new cast members, but we will pay Michael Dorn 1%.
He walked in with his agent, and their agent said, "Shut up, Space Dog."
I knew that was coming. It's like a shame. It really is. They burned bridges with Michael Dorn. Marina Sirtis hasn't even been talked to about it. Maybe it's just Picard and a bunch of new people.
Discovery, all these shows, they're fucking idiots, dude. They're fucking idiots. Look what Star Wars just did. Star Wars is we gotta fucking rein this shit back with the movies and shit. And Star Trek's doing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
With far less talent behind it and far less, foundation. Like Star Wars, there's a lot to go on, and there's a strong product there. Star Trek right now, I don't know.
Star Trek is not hot right now with mainstream audiences.
That. Yeah,
it's the same thing that's always happened. I was watching that Toys That Made Us show, and they were talking about how Star Trek toys, when a good movie would
by
hit,
Mego,
huh?
By Mego, that's the company who made them. Yeah,
when a good movie would hit, they wouldn't make toys until the next movie came out, thinking it was going to be just as good. But we all know how the odd number Star Trek movies
they
work.
Didn't know yet,
so they didn't sell for shit. So they didn't make toys for the next good movie. It's still what's happening with Star Trek. They're striking while the iron is cold as fuck.
Yeah, they're doing it the backwards way. Really.
How are you going to build a a new 90s style Star Trek franchise off of a series that you have to buy a streaming service in order to see?
It's absurd. It doesn't take a corporate mega genius to figure this out. Two idiots are sitting in their houses right now recording a podcast about it. It really isn't that difficult of a concept. What? Wait, hello?
Wait, who?
Hello? Jeff?
Is this thing on? Is this mic hot? Fucking, I don't know. I wanted to say, though, that this episode is, it transcends television writing. There are always those people who were oh, well, literature is the highest form of writing as an art, and then, television is, the shittiest.
Right.
But, this is pure literature writing.
It's amazing. It's incredibly written. I guffawed at some of the lines. I was like, my God. Just the fucking it's like listening to Led Zeppelin. And you listen to Led Zeppelin for the first time, and you can tell oh, these motherfuckers know that they're good.
Oh yeah, there's an understanding of the craft there that you just don't get usually.
These dudes are dick swinging right now, and that's what this episode is from a writer's standpoint. They're dick swinging with the writing in this.
This episode has writing that would be it would be perfect alongside literally any of the greatest writers.
It's really, really good.
So it's very important to point out that this episode was written by Melinda Snodgrass, who wrote several episodes of TNG, but this episode is her masterpiece, I think.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind how fucking good this is.
I don't. Again, I feel like we have said nothing about this, but I think we just keep saying how good it
Yeah, it's difficult, right?
I don't know if there's a bad line in this script. I don't know if there's. I mean, there isn't. I do know, and I also know that there's not a bad scene. There's not a bad character.
I think it's interesting to note that she not only wrote Measure of a Man, but she also was the story editor of her own writing, and it turned out that well.
Yeah.
She also wrote The Ensigns of Command.
What's that
and
one?
The High Ground.
I don't remember which ones those are.
The Ensigns of Command, if it's the one I think it is.
It's this one.
Oh yeah, it's like Data on the planet trying to get the aliens to evacuate.
Yeah, they tries to get them off the planet. Yeah. This one's good.
That's a good episode, yeah.
Yeah, this one's good.
And
she likes Data a lot.
Well, fuck, who wouldn't, right?
He's a great story lightning rod.
The High Ground is the one where they go to the planet and there are terrorists who are trying to take control of the government because they're being oppressed, and Crusher gets kidnapped by their leader.
Yeah, and they have that teleporter that like kills them slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's alright.
That one's okay. But it just shows that like she's a quality writer, that like the worst one she wrote was just okay.
Yeah, it's still a good episode. I'd still watch it.
I think it's important to note that she also wrote quite a few episodes of The Outer Limits, the 95 to 2000 series.
Oh, man, I don't think I saw a lot of those.
They're actually really fucking good for the most part.
Dude, the 60s Outer Limits was like the poor man's Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it was. Like the 90s one is actually like really good. Like I saw one the other day because like a local channel was playing like a marathon of them.
Uh-huh.
I saw one the other day about this dude who his wife had been killed by a mugger and he was going to kill himself.
Right.
But then he got like pulled through time and space into another dimension where another version of him had created a machine to pick versions of himself out of other dimensions to figure out what his life would have been like if he would have chosen.
What do they do that in?
paths.
What do they reference that in something? What the fuck is that?
See, I don't know, but like it turned out that like one of the versions of himself he pulled through was like a fucking murderer.
Yeah, like a murderer. Yeah,
and he was trying to like team up with another version of himself to rein them in, but then like it was fucking great. It was
I think
a really
that's a
great
short
episode.
story. I think there's a short story about a guy who has like a coat or like a cloak or something. Or a watch, and he like travels around through different times, like and meets different versions of himself. There might be a short story about that.
It was just fucking like it was a great episode. I wonder if she wrote that one, but like my point is that like she's really fucking great writer.
Yeah,
and maybe like a head nod to director Robert Shearer. Who directed episodes of TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. Who directed this episode.
Way to go, Ed Sheehan.
He was also apparently a member of fucking John Larroquette fun fact of the day. The director of this episode was a member of the dance group, the Jivin' Jackson Jills.
That is a 100% John Larroquette fun fact of the day.
Extension for the fun fact.
Interesting.
The Jivin' Jackson Jills performed with Abbott and Costello.
Like when was their like prime working time period? Like
the fuck, I don't
50s? 40s?
I don't know. He was born in 1929, so
that dude's like old as
probably
fuck,
the 40s.
Man. Probably the 40s.
But yeah, he worked with Abbott and Costello, and he also was in Broadway as an actor on the play Lend an Ear.
There you go. I think we all remember how good that was.
Holy shit, he appeared with Julie Andrews in the movie The Boyfriend. This dude's had a career.
Julie Andrews show her tits in the Wedding Crashers?
I don't, probably. Sounds real.
Is that her? Or are those her not tits? Are those like stunt
Those
boobs?
are probably stunt titties.
I mean, they look like they were like computer, maybe.
Computer titties?
Yeah, because they're like, in the movie, they're like perky and like she got a boob job and stuff.
Well, John Larroquette fun fact of the week. Commander Maddox is a piece of shit. Sucks a lot of pee-pees.
Yeah, I hate him. I hate his pee-pee. Wait, I'm not thinking of Julie Andrews. Who am I thinking of?
I don't know. I didn't think Julie Andrews was in that movie.
I confuse old ladies sometimes. It's what the fuck?
Apparently, another John Larroquette fun fact of the week. Melinda Snodgrass, writer of this episode, was an attorney.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Jane
Seymour is who I confuse with Julie Andrews all the fucking time.
That's not even close, but all right.
Jane Seymour. Oh, man, I'm stupid.
Snodgrass also mentioned that there was no way there would be lawyers in the future.
Really?
In the beautiful future, there would be no lawyers.
I don't think that's true at all. I don't know if that's true at all. I feel like we've kind of figured that one out. Like, you need lawyers, like you do.
It's just
right.
Oh man,
what are you gonna do without lawyers? What are you gonna do?
Fucking great episode though. That's like Josh said. We've talked about nothing and everything about this episode all at once.
Yeah. Like I don't have anything else to say.
Performances are top notch. No one puts a bad performance in this episode.
Not even. This is amazing that I'm even going to say this. Not even Will Wheaton is bad in this.
He says 3 lines.
That's probably the limit.
That's why it's good.
That's probably all the lines that you can put of him in a show and have it be okay still.
All the best episodes of Star Trek have 3 or less lines from Will Wheaton in it. It's a miracle Will Wheaton has not blocked me yet, actually. I don't know why. For some reason, I just
he
fly
uses one
through.
Of those things, because he blocked a bunch of people that I know.
Oh, blockchains, yeah.
Yeah, he uses one of those.
Blockchains catch a lot of people who they probably shouldn't be catching, but whatever.
Yeah, I've been blocked by some people, and I've been like, I shouldn't be blocked.
I don't know who this is, but okay. Yeah, I'm blocked by some people like that. Where
why you would be on a social media site and use a blockchain, I have no clue.
Like I see people who like retweet, like quote retweet stuff, and it says tweet not available, and I'm like, so I'll click on it to see if it's been deleted, and it says I've been blocked.
You've been blocked, and I'm like, there's people that I've never even looked at before who I'm blocked.
I don't know who the fuck this is, but okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm blocked. Cool.
That's fine. I'm fine with that. I feel like we've talked up and down, side to side, maybe in little circles. They seem to like that, about The Measure of a Man.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know how we're going to watch any other episodes, honestly.
We do have the Drumhead coming up.
Oh, the Drumhead's next. That one's also
That's not the next
good.
one, actually. The next one is the DS9 episode with the the Klingon court.
The Klingon dude, yeah.
Which is
man, he's an asshole too.
All lawyers, right? Unless you are a patron and a lawyer, then you're cool.
I think I would be a really good lawyer, Jeff. What do you think?
I think you've said that before. You said you'd be a good lawyer because you're a bastard.
I like to win. I like to win in ways that I think people are not aware of. I really like to.
Like you love winning arguments.
I love shutting people the fuck down, yes.
I don't have the energy for that shit.
I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty okay at it, if I do say so.
I'm so fucking, like, passive most of the time. Somebody would be like, Jeff, you're a piece of shit. I'd be like, all right, fuck you, whatever. Like, I don't care.
Oh, man. It's like just your opinion, man.
Yeah, like, I'm fine. I've met me. I'm good. I'm the best. I put this episode in this order.
That's true.
In the Trials collection.
Wait, so our next, what's it called? What's the next one called? I guess we should say what it is.
Oh, fuck that. I don't want people listening to this. Let me check.
Oh, it's on the Twitter. We're each looking at the Twitter.
We're looking at our own Twitter to figure out what episode this is going to be. So get excited.
Just wait. Here, I found it. It's, Rules of Engagement.
Yeah, DS9 Rules of Engagement.
Season 4, episode 18. Hopefully that's correct on Netflix.
It's definitely not going to be that on Netflix.
Yeah, it's very... Netflix really fucks up the numbers. I don't know why.
I know that the Drumhead is actually one Kevin Cole's favorite episode of Star Trek.
And then we get Tribunal, which is... Is that the...
It's the Cardassian court.
That's the O'Brien one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Cardassian court. I felt it was great to have like an interspersal of Federation court, so we can still have an idea. Although the drumhead ends very differently.
Yes.
It shows that the court doesn't always do the right thing.
Yeah.
But look forward to that one. But the next one is DS9 Rules of Engagement, if you want to listen to that.
Also, buy a shirt.
Oh, yeah. It turns out a lot of people don't know that we sell shirts.
Which is crazy.
A lot of people think the Patreon isn't real, but it is.
It's our fault. It's our fault because for years we're doing one.
But the Patreon is real. We sell t-shirts. You can find links to all that shit at mclasspodcast.wordpress.com.
Go to it.
You can also find links to all that shit on our Twitter.
Go to that.
Which is at mclasspodcast. And if you'd like to send us an email and be on our other program, which will be out next week, it's mclassemail@gmail.com, singular.
No emails, email one.
And if you would like to receive M-Class emails, the episode, on the same day you're listening to this episode instead of next week, then you should become a patron of ours, because they get it a week early.
Yeah, they're better than you.
Unless you become one.
Then you can be just as good as them, which is better. Far superior than most people.
They get M-Class emails a week early. They receive specialty podcasts that no one else receives.
Secret what's the line?
Dodepel secret. Fuck, I don't remember.
Something. Fuck.
It doesn't matter.
Robot house.
Secret probation.
Yeah.
They receive podcasts such as the super secret Hidden Discovery collection.
Hidden Discovery.
The Jeff and Josh Shoot the Shit podcast, where we pick a random topic and just talk about it for a half hour to 45 minutes.
Oh yeah. Also, if you want us to talk about what you want us to talk about on there, just go to Twitter and tell us.
Yeah, you can tell us what you'd like us to talk about. We might twist that and fuck you over, but it'll still be a good episode.
We need ideas, honestly, because we're really brain dead.
Yeah, it's weird that we can talk about what the fuck ever for hours at a time, but then as soon as we need a structured topic, we've got nothing.
It's the way it works, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just the way,
But if you want to become a patron, you can head on over to patreon.com/mclasspodcast. And you can receive up to 3 separate podcasts that you won't be able to listen to otherwise.
That's fucking crazy.
And there's like a drawing for free art that I'll make free art for you once a month.
Yeah.
I'm going to get on that, by the way, patrons. I know I missed last month, but it was our first month, and I'm ready this time. I got it. But if you don't want to do any of those things, fucking fine, I guess, dude. Be that way.
Yeah, just listen if you want.
You can just listen to us, and
this is free. It'll be free forever, probably.
Yeah. Well, not probably. Forever for sure.
Probably.
Damn, Josh has got some fucking big boy plans that I don't even know about yet.
Do you want the M-Class Podcast Silver Package?
Fuck with CBS All Access.
Make sure you pay $5 a month, and you can watch Jeff and Josh talk about movies, and then you get to you can see it.
See it? What the fuck? It's a podcast. What's a commentary?
You watch the movies.
Anyway,
M-Class got the movies.
Oh no. If you want to see movies, you got to see M-Class.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in next week for more M-Class podcast in one form or another.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
drink Sluggo Cola, the slimiest cola in the galaxy.